All right, good morning, everybody. Everything new under the sun. It's been obviously a while since I did a video, and I'll try and kind of explain it. And I've explained it a little bit before as well. But basically, um, been very busy. Lots of family things happening. Kids sports, all the things that happen these days, and we're just coming out of the lockdowns now. I won't mention the word coming out of the lockdowns. There's no more mask mandate where I am, which is absolutely fabulous to be able to walk into a store without a mask. It's odd and it's stupid that we have to feel this way, but it's an incredible feeling, and I think it's God. You can look at it, and I think God impresses upon us that we should always be aware of the many blessings and the freedoms that we do have, and appreciate them when we do have them. There's a lot of things happening in the world, and I've just been so busy of late. One of the big issues is that I work now an hour earlier, 8 to 4, and that morning there, that hour in the morning was really when I did a lot of my videos, and that's when I have the energy. That's when I have the inspiration, the time after work. Other family responsibilities kind of creep in and start taking over, and got a lot of things going on. And so it happens to be a holiday for me today, so I have the time. I have a couple of minutes here, not a lot of time because we're getting in the car shortly as a family and doing some things today. But want to catch up to speed. I do want to continue the videos. I definitely do. There's a lot going on, and I think there's still something to say related to it, and to continue to warn people that the return of the Lord is near. Biblical prophecy is coming to pass. I think it's coming into focus as we continue on. And we're going to take a look at a number of articles which seem to indicate that that's happening. And I'm just spotting another one as I'm looking at Zero Hedge here. So if you want to see all the prophetic headlines, follow zerohedge.com, great resource, and also raptureready.com. I've mentioned that before, and that's a great resource. If you haven't been following, check out Star Path Academy. And he is a guy that I posted on my community page. He talks about what happened in terms of hyperinflation in Romania. I don't know if he's a Christian. He seems to like me. Maybe he is religious of some sort. I'm not exactly sure. But the point is, he sees hyperinflation coming in the U.S. Hyperinflation is starting to happen. Inflation is significantly happening. The Federal Reserve has been speaking about it. First they said it was transitory. Now they're starting to say, well, it's going to be around for a little while. I think the WHO came out and warned that that inflation is going to be around for a while, and it's increasing significantly. What is inflation and hyperinflation means? It means it requires more dollars to buy the same product. So if you go out and buy milk, maybe isn't a good example, but if you go out and buy a loaf of bread, well, it's going to cost you maybe an extra dollar now, where yesterday it was $4. Maybe today it's $5, and that's inflation. That means every dollar of yours is worth less and less, and that's what's happening. And so he sees that coming, and he speaks about his experiences, what they had to do in Romania to survive, how little food they lived off of, that they had to go plant gardens, how they made any money, basically by skills and your elbow grease and labor. That's how anybody made any money, and it was very hard. And he talks about gold and silver. Was gold and silver useful? Was property, owning property, and what if you had debt during that time? So Star Path Academy, he talks about all those in his, I think he's done probably 4 or 5 videos now related to that, and it's very interesting because he has the first-hand knowledge of living in a family, a multi-generational family in Romania, living through that. Let's talk about a couple of things. Interestingly, let's start with this one here. Cyber Polygon. Have you heard of Cyber Polygon? This is something. So you heard of Event 201, where they practiced a pandemic. It was in late 2019. They thought a pandemic might come across the world, and they said, what would we do if a pandemic came? How would we roll things out? Would we lock down society? What would we do? And so they simulated a global pandemic. And what happened months later? Well, conveniently, a global pandemic came. Now, the next thing that they're practicing, getting prepared for, cyber attacks. And so, just like Event 201, there's this cyber polygon event coming up. I've spoken about this, but they're referring to it as a cyber pandemic. Cyber Polygon 2020, a simulation about a cyber pandemic. And that took place July 9th. And so many think this is going to be another kind of go live event where they practice it, and then shortly, a few months later, this comes to pass. I've heard officials say that just like a pandemic, to prevent the spread of, say, ransomware, which has occurred in the U.S. On the oil lines, oil pipes, and I think also, who did it happen to? Tyson, a meat processing plant. Maybe it wasn't Tyson, Cargill, or whoever it was. But these ransomware attacks, these viruses spread to all the servers in the company, and basically they hold out for Bitcoin or some other payment, and otherwise they scramble your data and will erase your data if you don't pay that. So ransomware. And so what the officials have come out and said was that, well, to stop cyber polygon, to stop a cyber pandemic, you know what the world's going to need to do? You're going to need to disconnect from the internet for a couple of days. So just like the lockdown occurred to prevent the spread of they're going to create a digital lockdown to create the spread of this cyber pandemic, ransomware, whatever the next big thing is. Now, that would be a perfect time to reset the monetary system, wouldn't it? If they shut down the whole internet for a couple of days, whatever it is, to prevent or to stop a cyber pandemic, they can reset the whole monetary system, and the monetary system is in trouble. It says, could cyber polygon simulation become reality? Many Americans thought so. Derek Brose points out in the article that the world has experienced many simulations that come to fruition only a short time later. And it does speak of Event 201. October 2019, Bill and Melinda Gates, the World Economic Forum, and Johns Hopkins Center, who was front and center for the pandemic, conducted Event 201. Event 201 is a simulation of how the world would react to if a pandemic swept across the planet. Less than 6 months later, the WHO declared a pandemic. Incredible. Will cyber polygon come to fruition? Was it a complete coincidence that occurred? I think you need to be prepared for the internet to be completely disconnected. Many of you know that I got my amateur radio license. I did a couple of videos on that. I think now the government can track and shut down that as well, but it's good to have alternate forms of communication. There is a portable ham radio, amateur radio. Likewise, I've done videos on FRS. These are just different ways, different frequencies, different tools for which you can communicate. Very short range, medium range, and then I've got a high frequency set up as well where you can communicate long distance. Now that doesn't always work because latest news coming out of Cuba. The population is trying to overthrow, and there's great unrest related to Cuba's government. Was it the Cuban government was assassinated, the president? And what has Cuba done? Well, they've started jamming amateur radio frequencies because they don't want Cubans to be talking to the outside world, to the U.S., etc. So this is live happening right now. The Cuban government is jamming, and if you go on 40 meters on the amateur radio band, you can see all these lines where all these powerful jamming signals are occurring. So they can disrupt amateur radio as well, and you'd have to overpower that with wattage basically, or find a frequency where that they're not jamming. They can't jam everything all the time, at least they're not yet. And so that's why you need different options. Maybe hyperlocal communications can be done with this, couple kilometers, right? Maybe medium range communications through repeaters could be done with this for a certain period of time, maybe a time of day or something. If nothing else, you can use one of these to listen to hear what news is going on. You maybe not going to send out communications, but maybe just receive communications, and so you can do that. So it's very important, especially as they look to lock down the internet for a couple of days. That's what they've been talking about to prevent the spread of viruses through computer systems. They are now talking about just like in the pandemic, mandatory lockdown of the internet. And what would that, boy, that would bring the world to a standstill if internet traffic stopped, all banking, everything. And that would be a great opportunity for the central banks to reset the world economy. And with inflation happening, and Star Path Academy, he sees hyperinflation coming. That could be very true. Let's look at this. Another heat wave coming. Set to roast western U.S. and Canada. There's been heat wave records being set all over the place. It's happening again for the fourth time in 5 weeks. A punishing heat wave set to bake western and adjacent western Canada. Incredible temperatures that have been coming up related to this. And what does the Bible say? In the last days, the sun is going to scorch men with great heat. What will they do? They will blaspheme God. But this is kind of the windup as we head into Bible prophecy timeline. We see the increase in Earth's temperature and all this gearing up because the Lord will ultimately, at the end, cleanse the earth with fire. And so we see it heating up right now. Pope Francis, he was in the hospital. This is an interesting one. Again, as we look at kind of some of these extra biblical prophecies, we say, will they be debunked? Will they not be debunked? And this is one of them. The Pope Francis is the 112th Pope, the prophecy of St. Malachi. He predicted that there would be 112 popes from the time that he wrote down or said that prophecy. And Pope Francis is now the 112th Pope. And then the destruction comes, is what the prophecy states and predicts. And he was just in the hospital. And so I went looking at this. I just saw this today. Jesuit Father Thomas Rees wrote Tuesday, the hospitalization of Pope Francis marks the beginning of the end of his papacy, adding that time is running out for the 84-year-old Pope. So the question you ask is, what was he in for? Well, I Googled it. I DuckDuckGo'd it. This is what I'm using. And Pope Francis leaves hospital 10 days after intestinal surgery. You can see the link there that I'm hovering over. So he was in for maybe some routine colon surgery. And, at 84 years old, these things take a toll. And if his reign is coming to an end, could that mean the fulfillment of the 112 popes and the end of whatever that prediction or prophecy was? Now, again, God gives prophecy and prediction to many men. That is extra biblical. The Bible doesn't record all prophecies. Think of all the Muslims who have had dreams and visions of Jesus Christ. And those aren't written in the Bible. Those are extra biblical, but they're no less real. So as we look at these things and we compare them to what the Bible says about the last days, we say, there's something to keep an eye on, something that is interesting. And could the 70 shepherds of Israel still be accurate? Maybe there's a different interpretation. Maybe the interpretation refers to the presidents instead of the prime ministers of Israel. I don't know. But it's interesting. And if you follow... Ken Johnson, he's also still looking at the prophecy of the 10 weeks of the book of Enoch. So there's still some interesting stuff there, and we won't know until the Lord returns, and then we'll be able to look back at Bible prophecy and say, yep, this happened, and these ones were bunk. But we'll continue to track. So this is an interesting one. Read the headline. 5 times more children died than died of, the pandemic in the lockdown. So there's a lot more death happening because of the pandemic, because of the lockdown. And basically there's a lot of people who haven't been able to get proper surgeries, proper medical care because of the lockdowns. And it's increasing again. The variants are increasing in the UK. It's interesting. And I don't think this is going to stop while we're out of the woods where I am and the mask mandate has gone by the wayside, and it's a beautiful thing. I think maybe we only get this summer before this ramps up again. Remember, waves, just like the waves of the pandemic, Bible prophecy is happening in waves. We see an uptick and then kind of a calming and then an uptick. Again, just like birth pains, right? The Bible says the last days is going to be just like birth pains, an increase and then a calming and then an increase again, just like birth pains. So I suspect there will be another pandemic, a greater one. And certainly, is it being conflated, being used for nefarious purposes? I think there are alternate things. People are pushing it and using it to their advantage. Certainly, China, at the end of the day, I think has come out on top, even though it kind of originated from there. They are selling products and services like mad right now. So, this is a big deal. Wars, rumors of wars are happening too. Look in South Africa. In South Africa, they're having all sorts of trouble. Food collapse. South African riots shut down exports of sugarcane citrus as farms burn. People are just looting and rioting. They're desperate. And this is trouble. South Africa has called up all its army reserves, every single one of them, as much as it can. And you even have other citizens in the near picture here trying to prevent all the looting and rioting of the opposite citizens who are, you see in the background there. And there's all sorts of civil unrest. The jailing of former South African President Jacob Zuma has led to widespread protests, civil unrest throughout the country. It's chaos there. And it's causing economic collapse there. And this is going to trigger worldwide economic collapse. The worldwide economic collapse is still coming. Be prepared for it. I hope you've been getting prepared for it this whole time. All right, passports. Passports are now mandatory in France. You know what we're talking about. Again, they're not going to force it, but they will take your life away. Liken this to that mark on your right hand or forehead that we're going to get in the last days, or that they're going to try and put on you. You're not going to be forced, but they're going to make your life hard. You're not going to be able to do anything, and this is what's happening in France as it relates to the pandemic. They're going to trigger you to get it. They're going to lock your life down. And it's working. It's working in there. They're saying you can't go to parks and you can't go out to play and you can't do this and you can't join maybe soccer clubs and all these sorts of things. You can't do all this. If you want your life back, get this. And that's what they're pushing for. And when that mark comes, they're going to do exactly the same thing. It's going to be all the pressure in the world. Most people are going to be like, yeah, whatever. I don't care. I don't agree with it, but I'm going to get it. Because they didn't read their Bible and they didn't know that that is, at that point, it's literally selling your soul and giving up your life, giving up your eternity because you're pledging allegiance to the Antichrist at that point in time. So I think that's what I want to talk about, the Cuba jamming. It's like we're living in the Cold War, and this has happened in the past, and all these things are absolutely incredible. The return of the Lord is near. You need to be prepared. We're in the crunch time now. I think the 7-year period could start at the end of this year. Nothing that I've seen has pointed to delaying of that. I think all these things with the variants coming, people are scared about that. They're saying the jabs aren't working against those, etc. You see all the disinformation against ivermectin, for example. Boy, the disinformation against that. Maybe a good time to get some of that. You can get it off Amazon. I won't say how or where. You can get it. You may have to repurpose it, if you know what I mean. But you can get that. And there's just sort of all wrong speak is being absolutely censored. If you say something, government body, whatever doesn't like, against whatever the official language police are saying is correct, you'll be censored. You'll be taken off the air. You'll be sidelined. So, folks, get prepared. I've been doing a lot of work myself to get prepared, um, none of which I've been doing videos of, but in the background, I've, um, for example, for example, I've got some extra solar panels. I've got an extra battery situation ready to go. Um, when Cyber Polygon happens, if it happens, and it's likely that it will happen. It's very likely that because the interconnected world, this will happen. It's going to take down power grids. You need to be ready to deal with life without gasoline. Everybody has gas generators. If the gas stations are down for more than a couple days, you're not going to be able to get gas. Everybody's going to run through their gas. You're going to need alternate methods to power things, to run a well pump a couple of times a day. You're going to need some options there, and it's not cheap right now. But you need to be prepared. We have a large, well, not large actually. We have a garden going, growing various things. If nothing else right now, it's good learning for when we do need to plant a larger garden. And you follow Star Path Academy, and that was a big part of their daily exercise. We got the chickens going. All these various things, even if they're not in massive scale right now, it's all practice learning so that we're ready should we need to do this. And I think these times are coming. Be prepared. The warnings are ominous. The economic situation is ominous out there for hyperinflation, for more lockdowns coming, uh, you know, for cyber pandemics as well as new variants. And I suspect there will be a new pandemic on the scene, even unrelated to the current one. The Revelation 6 speaks about famines and pestilence, and that's exactly what's happening. As people come out of the lockdown as well, there's going to be massive shortages of things because everybody is all of a sudden spending money. Where I am, we're opening up to the rest of the country. There's going to be an influx of people, maybe a spike in cases again, and which could lead in the fall to another lockdown. And I think there will be lockdowns again as these variants come. I certainly believe the variants are there, and the jabs may not be effective against them. And so we're heading on multiple fronts to lockdowns for multiple reasons, and the world is only waxing worse. The violence is increasing. Cuba, South Africa. I think civil unrest is going to increase in the U.S., in Canada. We are heading quickly into that time. People are so woefully unprepared for any sort of power outage, cyber attack, etc. The country's infrastructure is, if the grid goes down for more than 24 hours, I mean, it's madness. People aren't showering. All the meat in the freezers are going bad. And it would be chaos if there was a massive grid shutdown. And that happened in Texas, right? Because of all the green energy and the freezing, the winter weather that came and took them out. And it was madness. It was chaos. People were desperate, and that wasn't a very long time. And so I think it only gets worse. Be prepared, guys. It's a warning to you to get ready. We are in the last days. The Lord's return is nearing. And I haven't changed my story. I think we could see the build up to the start of a 7-year period, this fall period. And many others believe it to be the same. Hope you're all doing well and tracking along. Follow many other channels. John Holler, he knocks it out of the park every Sunday. A great resource to see all the latest news, all the stuff, all the madness that is happening in the world. He's still speaking about it, and be prepared. Times are going to be hard, and I really hope you guys are prepared. Just like Joseph in the 7 good years, he stored up wisely for the 7 bad years. And we're quickly coming to the end of that 7 good years where you can get resources, where resources are able to be had. Make your financial moves now. We made a significant financial move. We sold a large item so that we could pay off a large amount of debt. and that has helped us position ourselves and get ready to free up some income. Because again, if you listen to Star Path Academy, when hyperinflation starts, it's like your income will be being halved. Every 6 months, your income is halved because your buying power is halved. You have less and less buying power. So if you get rid of debt, free up some of that income, that will help you survive and get through, at least further on through, so that you can survive. So big things are coming. All right, folks, I'll leave it there. Thanks for watching, and I apologize for the delay in videos. I will do what I can, but the timing is just very, very hard for me to continue with these on a regular basis. I will do what I can. Thanks for your support always and your comments, and I appreciate them. And we'll see you in the next video, which hopefully won't be too far away.